Hi, I'm Erica.
And I'm Greg.
Welcome back to the channel. We have a cat.
That was Lulu, everyone.
Hey, Lulu.
Hey.
Don't do that.
Hey.
Okay.
All right.
We wanted to talk about our upcoming trip, where we're going, how we chose that location, and then some of the planning that goes into making these trips. So last year we did South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming as a road trip. It was super fun. And this year we decided to do another road trip, only this time we are hitting Arizona.
Yes.
Now, when we first started talking about this, we were actually thinking Arizona and New Mexico, and that we would do that as a combined trip. But once we actually started looking at all of the cool things to do in Arizona, we realized that that was easily a trip by itself.
Yes. Yeah, like a full 2-week trip.
Absolutely. In fact, this is going to be our longest road trip we've done together.
Pray for our marriage.
He loves me. He loves spending time with me. Oh my gosh, Lulu, you can't knock over the camera. It is 14 nights and 15 days. And so last time I think we did
12?
Yeah, 11 nights and 12 days. So it's a little bit longer than our last trip. And I think that some of the ways that we choose which location to go to, we kind of just chat about like what we're interested in, what we like doing, places that have been like on our list before. And Arizona,
actually, while on our last cruise, we ran into a couple from New Mexico, which got us thinking about road tripping to New Mexico. But we've only dipped our toe into Arizona. I mean, we've been to the Grand Canyon and we've been to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And that was we spent like a weekend in Phoenix, and then we did an overnight at the Grand Canyon, and that was basically the extent of our time in Arizona.
Yeah, that was basically it.
Yes, we originally intended to combine Arizona and New Mexico, but once we got into planning things, we never got out of Arizona.
That's right. So we used a couple of guidebooks. We used the Moon and Frommer's guidebook to help plan. And then I also, Lulu's she loves people. I also use TripAdvisor boards quite a bit to get information about locations and itineraries, and it's a great place to ask questions. It's also a great place to use the search bar and see what other people have asked, because a lot of times people have already asked the question that you have. So it can be really useful for that. So basically we looked at kind of all the things that we wanted to do. I remember literally I was reading the guidebook and we were chatting about it, and I said, we might be in trouble because Tucson alone has like a week's worth of things for us to do.
It does.
But that's kind of how we start out. We start discussing where we want to go, and then we kind of narrow it down to like, what are our must-haves? Like, what do we absolutely want to see in a location? And then once we have that, like it or hate it, and I have a mixed reaction to it, but I actually did this for our last trip and I did it for this trip. I put it into ChatGPT, or Claude in this case, and I said, like, here's what we want to see, here's what we're interested in, here's how many hours a day we want to travel, we want to actually drive, put together a loop.
I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords.
I do not, and like I said, I don't know how I feel about it. There's a huge difference between last year doing this and this year doing this. This year's was much, much better and more exact, like more fit my parameters much more closely. I absolutely do not take that as the end of it. I then take that as the loose itinerary, and then I start plugging in different things like what's open which days, because some things are only open certain days. I start plugging in the actual on Google Maps, this location to this location, and then I start looking at different places along the way that maybe are not too far out of the way that we could stop at, that are maybe some of the tertiary ideas that we had that weren't maybe a landmark thing that we wanted to see, but we would see if we could. So then I started putting that in, so that in our final itinerary, and we did add days. Like, we were also going to make this a little bit shorter trip, and we ended up adding days because there was so much to see and do. And then we put that into kind of a loose itinerary. Now, you have I'm not going to say criticism, I'm going to say, well, it's not. It's more of a constructive feedback on when I put together itineraries.
Okay.
And that is with how long we spend at certain places.
Yeah. Because someone
It's me.
overestimates consistently how long we're going to be spending at locations.
I do. It's definitely.
Yeah. I kind of go back because we do this from our last trip. Is we go back and we look at, hey, how much time do we allocate for certain things, and then how much time did we actually spend at them?
Yeah.
And we generally, especially for smaller attractions, we generally, she'll put in 2 to 3 hours at some place, and it ends up being about an hour to an hour and a half.
That's fair. That's
so,
fair. But having learned this about myself, with help from Greg telling me about myself, one of the things that we've actually started doing is putting in alternates. So I build into the itinerary now either alternate attractions, things that are close by that we could do if we still have time, maybe some of the smaller things that we could do, and I just start building that into the plan so that if we do get done someplace fast, we can go see something else, and if we take longer than we anticipated taking, that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so just trying to keep it a little bit flexible.
Yeah, flexibility is basically the key here that we're trying to achieve.
And I would like to point out that in my view, flexibility comes from over planning. Because we plan so thoroughly, we can be flexible because we know opening times, we know locations to other things, like we've studied the map.
We're not creating something out of the blue if something falls through. We already have our alternative plan already in place.
Yeah. And so if something happens like a weather event, like on a day when we were planning on being outside, then we know what days we can switch out the itinerary for and things like that. It really does help us. So once all of that is done, then once I have a rough itinerary, then I usually go ahead and put it into TripAdvisor. So I actually go to the TripAdvisor forums for whatever state we're visiting, and I put in the itinerary, and I get feedback from locals and people who are experts in that forum who often have a lot of good ideas. And it's a great place if you have very specific questions. It's not great with like, I want to go spend 2 weeks in Arizona. What should I see? Because these people don't know you. They don't know your life. They don't know what you're interested in. But it is great. In this case, there was a day when I was unsure of where we should spend the night because of travel time. And, there are places that are remote that you don't want to be traveling at night. You don't want to be on the roads in the evenings. So I wasn't sure about where we should spend the night. And it was great to get that answer.
Yes.
So again, very specific questions they can be great with.
And also knowing when to disregard the advice.
That's exactly it too.
I mean, you know you.
Yeah.
So, I think the good example here is when you put the itinerary up, is several people commented, how can you only spend a day at the Grand Canyon?
Right.
Well, because 3 years ago, we spent several days at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna drive by. We're gonna spend a day there, but the few lodging choices there are very expensive, and so we just did not want to incur that cost.
Yeah, and that's something else, obviously, that I don't know what your life is like, but I don't have unlimited vacation time or unlimited vacation budget. So definitely, especially with a longer trip, and especially with gas now going through the roof, it's going to be a very interesting budgeting. But that's definitely something that we looked at. And we like to prioritize experiences. We are doing more tours, and we're going to go step by step in our itinerary in the next video. But we're doing more tours this time than we have done previously, partly because we are on Navajo land, and so there are certain tours that you have to take, and also because we have a goal of hitting every state and national park in Utah.
Right.
And so a couple of them we're going to hit on this trip, and one of them we wanted to do a tour in. So, so we're prioritizing that. And so we're deprioritizing things like food. Now, Tucson is a gastronomic city. It's a UNESCO gastronomic city. And so, yes, we are going to have a Sonoran. It is. It's a thing. Um, yes, we're going to have a Sonoran hot dog, veggie in my case. Yes, we're going to be having some Mexican food. But food overall is one of the things that we deprioritize for this trip because it is longer, because we did add days to it.
Yeah.
So we're deprioritizing that, and we're staying at hotels that have a kitchenette or a full kitchen so that we can eat meals in the room and we can keep our cooler stocked for
Yep.
lunches, and so saving money that way.
Yeah. And no one has. Well, most of us don't have unlimited vacation money. So this is one of the things we're doing to save money.
Yeah, yeah. And we're using the other options that we have. Like we have a national parks pass, which obviously we're going to several national parks. So that's really useful to have.
Yep.
So yeah, we're doing that on our trip. And like I said, especially with choosing hotels that have like a kitchen or a kitchenette, which allows us to save a little bit of money that way. So that's kind of how we choose a destination and then set about researching and planning an itinerary. And so,
what other methods of research do you use?
I mean, I watch a lot of vlogs. Through My Lens, their Arizona trip, amazing. Absolutely use that as a blueprint for a lot of the things that we want to see, which I find really helpful. Again, I over-research, so I want to know, like, what's the parking situation where we're going? Or, like, what does this road actually look like? It gives me a lot of peace to see that ahead of time and to know what we're getting into.
I mean, part of our planning process also is to make sure that things are going to be open when we go.
Yeah.
Take our last trip when we wanted to go by Little Bighorn National Battlefield.
Yep.
And because they are building a new visitor center, there is only open 3 days a week.
Yeah, it was only.
It was only 3 days a week, and it wasn't actually our original plan. And so, but because she researched, double checked the opening hours of everything we were going to do, we caught it in time, and then we were able to adjust our itinerary.
Yeah, and we did. We ended up like completely changing the loop.
Yes.
Only like a month out. So it's important to stay on top of things like that, especially if you've got.
Don't assume that it's because something's a tourist attraction, it's going to be open every single day.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%. And if it's a must see on your list, double check, triple check. Like put a little note in your calendar to just be like, let me go back to that website and make sure that is still open or hasn't changed, because things change.
Yeah. And another important thing is to remember is seasonal. Mm-hmm. Like on our last trip through Wyoming and South Dakota, I think we basically, as like the first available days things were open was some of the days that we were planning our trip, and so we're scheduling this trip. Actually, we're going to be going in April and into early May into Arizona, and that is because Arizona is really, really hot in the summertime, and so we're trying to. And apparently, a lot of places are actually closed in the summer.
They are.
It's kind of the opposite of what you'd expect in most tourist locations. Is they're only open in the summer. Yeah. In Arizona, they're only closed in the summer.
Or they have shortened hours. Shortened hours, which you would expect to be the winter shortened hours. No, it's the summer.
Yes.
So we're trying to thread the needle on this trip with not hitting spring break or spring training, which I guess is a huge thing in Arizona.
Yeah.
I don't know sports.
Baseball.
Mm-hmm. But also not being there when it is 1 trillion degrees. So we're doing our best to kind of thread that needle.
Yes.
The other thing I did on this trip, going back to budget, I don't mean to keep going back and forth, but going back to budget.
Budgets affect everyone.
Is almost universally this time, I got non-refundable hotels. Now, I never do that. I always do refundable. But it's usually about $20 to even $30 more to do refundable as opposed to non-refundable. And if you're just spending a weekend someplace, it's fine. But if you're spending 14 nights, that adds up fast. So that's an ATV tour that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I did non-refundable, which is why I was like, I don't care how much gas is, we're going. We have to.
Yep.
But that is really important. And as you're looking at your dates and you're looking at things, this is again where either TripAdvisor is really helpful or advice from locals can be really helpful, because there are places where the tours might sell out. And you might realize the night before or the day before or the week before that you can't get either the time that fits into your schedule, or you can't even get the day that fits into your schedule. So if there are places that are like the reason for your trip, or the one thing that your 12-year-old was like, I need to see this, get those tickets. Like, go ahead and reserve it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and check, give them a call if you need to understand like how, because there were lots of things we wanted to do where, you know, the advice on TripAdvisor or the advice in the guidebooks was make sure you arrange this ahead of time, because it will sell out.
Yes.
So like Titan missile silo that we're doing, they only have like,
because we missed that on our last tour.
we did, yeah, because we couldn't get, we could not.
The tickets were gone so fast.
Yeah. So this
Although,
was important to us.
It's worth checking like the night before or the day or the morning of to see if there are any cancellations.
Because remember when we were in Dublin and we did that with the prison?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking of,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a prison in Dublin that we didn't even know to get tickets to. It wasn't even on our radar. We ended up with this canceled tour one morning, and we had time. And I remembered that the woman I had been chatting with at the Guinness Brewery bar had said that at 10 a.m. they released tickets day of if there were any available. And wouldn't you know it,
we got two tickets, and that was a fantastic.
Ended up being one of the highlights.
That was a fantastic thing to visit.
Yeah.
That was where I'm trying to remember the name of it was the Dublin, but it wasn't. It was in Dublin, but it wasn't named the Dublin Jail.
It wasn't the Dublin Jail.
Something else.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
But they executed several members of the IRA there.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a really neat place to visit.
I love a prison, as you know, if you've watched any of our videos. So,
we do love a good prison.
We love a good prison. It was really interesting. A lot of people from the Easter uprisings were held there, so it was really interesting and moving tour. And again, that it was that's both serendipitous, but also because we had done the research, because we had listened, because we had paid attention, we were able to remember. We knew to ask. And so that can all come into play as well when you're planning this kind of a trip.
Yeah. A lot of prior planning before your vacation will ensure that you have a smooth vacation.
Exactly. So in a follow-up video, we're going to go our itinerary, kind of step by step, and what we're seeing and what we're choosing. We're also going to do a video on sort of packing for a car trip, because I feel like there's a ton of information out there about packing for a car trip that is, if you're bringing kids, like what to do with that. But this is more like
not for adults.
Safety and like things that you will need, and things we do a lot of road trips, so things that you might need on a road trip, which can be really helpful and fun. I love packing for a road trip. It's one of my favorite things. And I will even share my podcast list, because if you've watched some of our if you've watched some of our road trip videos before, you know that I do all of the driving and all of the of that, because the only thing I can do in a car is either drive or keep it on the road with the power of my mind. I get car sick, I can't read, I can't do anything. This one reads, naps, snacks, listens, plays on his phone, like lives his best life over there.
Yeah, I can really do anything in a moving vehicle.
So I just listen to podcasts and drive, and I can't listen to music because I will start tuning it out, and then God forbid I should be alone with my thoughts for 5 minutes. So I listen to podcasts, and I like to schedule my podcast so that they are relevant to the thing that we are doing, which is also really fun. So I have a really fun podcast list of relevant to all of the sites and some of the events around the areas that we'll be traveling to. You love it.
Yes.
So more to come. We are super excited, and we will be, like I said, going over our itinerary in the next video and sharing all of the different places we'll be visiting.
Alrighty. So and don't forget, like and subscribe and all that stuff.
Exactly. And we'll put Lulu in more of the videos.
Yep. Everybody say goodbye.
Oh my God, look at her.
I promise you she's not dead.
She's very happy, actually.